4 p.m. and we're going to get started with our NCEES webinar today. I'm Cami Nairn with NCDPI, and today's NCEES session is Admin Start of Year with Plans, Access Rights, and What's New. I've added to your chat bar the bit.ly to today's slides. If you'd like to click that link, we do have some links we would like for you to click on during the webinar. So if you would grab those slides, it is bit.ly, bit.ly/admins with a capital A-D-M-I-N-S, then capital S, T-A-R-T, capital Y-E-A-R 2020. And that is pasted in your chat if you'd like to grab it from there. We are new to Webex and Webex training. This slide may have a kind of more geared Webex meeting. We are going to work on getting a slide that is specifically Webex training. Hopefully you have some controls like is pictured on the screen. If you're on a Mac, your controls are in the gray area over on the right. And if you're on a PC, I think you kind of see what's on the right, the left. So you have a button to mute and unmute, camera, sharing my screen, which I'm doing. Participant list, I'm not sure if you guys see participant list. The little bubble is your chat area. If you click the 3 arrows, there's some additional areas where you can raise your hand or ask a question. You can also ask questions in the chat, and we will have a tablet that we can add questions to as well until we get used to this new system. There is a side link at the bottom there. So I'm hoping everybody can hear me. Let me check my participants panel. In participant panel, you have a green check and a red X. If you can hear me, can you click the green check? I see a couple green checks going. All right, looks like we're talking here. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to get in here because it is brand new, although we also have just an hour to do this webinar, so we'll get moving in just a second. I see some chats coming in that they can hear me. All right, so you can uncheck your check. I don't know if I can do it for you. And then if you can see the screen, you're seeing the Welcome to Webex training slide on the screen. Can you do another green check? All right. Yes, I'll show the again. All that question come in. Let me go back one slide. And let me see if I can minimize my list here. Oh, that wasn't it. All right, so the bit.ly today is bit.ly/admin start year 2020. And the admin has a capital A, start has a capital S, year has a capital Y. It is case sensitive. It is also posted in the chat, and I don't know, Kim, if you can post that in there again. I don't know if the people that come after can see the previous chat or not. We do have like 150 plus people signed up today, so hopefully everybody's jumping on now. Thank you guys taking time out. I know there's a lot to do. All right, I'm going to move forward. If questions come in, Kim, if you'll just let me know. And you're welcome, guys, to unmute if you need to ask a question as well. If you want to fast or anything, just let us know. All right, so on our agenda today, we're going to look at starting staff this year, the staff source files, staff roles and rosters, setting those staff plan types, accessing rights with the NCEES district and site administrators, those plan rights for evaluators, observers, peers, mentors, review, and reopen admin. Talk a bit about beginning of year orientation and starting the plans, and then what's new in NCEES this year. If you have these slides now, the link is on the side over here too if you're joining us late. bit.ly for the admin start year 2020. And presenting today, I am Cammie Narron. I am your NCEES Education Product Consultant, and I manage NCEESandLearning.com. And today, we are doing NCEES. Joining me today is Kim Simmons, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, Cammie, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I am the North Carolina Educator Evaluation Coordinator. I do professional development mostly for principals, since they do most of the evaluations in North Carolina with all the teachers and certified and licensed support staff. And my partner is Cammie. We're partners in crime. She takes care of the online tool end, and I'm more about policy, practice, and procedure.
Thank you, Kim. I was just going to let them know that. Thank you very much. All right. You're welcome to make a copy of these slides and share with your district. We're going to jump right into the pilot activity. So on your slides is that link. Let me see if I can copy that and put it in the chat. Because I want to know today, there's an area you can say hello, who you are. We'll just take a couple minutes to do this. Now that is in the chat as well, link to the pilot. And I want to know, do we have some brand new people here today? Do we have experienced people here today? Let me jump over there. And then what questions did you expect to get answered today? So if you're looking on the screen, who's here, if you want to introduce yourself and where you're from, you can put that in the first column. In the second column, I want you to star. What is your experience with NCEES? Are you an expert? Or you have a comprehensive and authoritative knowledge of NCEES? Are you proficient, which is skilled in NCEES? Are you competent? Do you have acceptable and satisfactory knowledge level of NCEES components? Just click a star and rate yourself on how well you know NCEES. Maybe you're an advanced beginner. You can navigate NCEES and you're starting to know more about NCEES. Or maybe you're a novice with little to no previous experience with NCEES. So we want to know about where you're at. So as we bring these webinars to you this year, we can meet all levels of NCEES experience to help you learn more. So welcome everybody. I see Brian from Buncombe County, Alicia from Apex High School, Kelly from Guilford, there's Joy, Hessman, Keith is here, Leslie in Guilford County School, Assistant Principal, Kyle Worley's here, and I hope I'm saying this right, Betos Fanage from Cumberland County, Greg from a principal at LC Kerr, is that Lenore County, Raphael, I'm not going to say that, Jerkowitz, Maggie Holly, who's an HR coordinator, and Lisa Washington. So you can continue to say hello. Over to the right, we have some question areas. What are some questions you hope to have answered today? So somebody, all right. You can start anybody's comments or questions that I put in. If you see a question that is similar to yours, you can star it or put a comment on it. And somebody needs a link to the class. We can get that to you. I'll give you just a minute to do that, and then we'll get moving on.
So just for clarification, Cammie, they would need to open up the presentation to access the Padlet, correct?
Yes, and I also put the link in the chat.
Yep, and I did too.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, you put the Padlet link, or you?
Yeah, I put the Padlet. Do it again. You don't need to annotate the slides. That's your drawing slides. So if you want to, when you're voting, your experience, click stars. All right, so I put the link up to the slides and to the Padlet. Do I have to use my computer or my cell phone? You don't have to. You can test your sound. I think maybe under the three little lines you can test, or there's maybe an audio section under the three dots, and try to test your sound. I know I had to test mine when I first got in here to make sure it was working. All right, let's see who else is here. We have Enid from Guilford, Michelle Green is the AP from Winston-Salem, Forsyth. I remember my initials. Billy Joe from Robeson County. Rebecca's here from Union County. Blair from Asheville. Lisa from Robeson. Maggie is HR coordinator in Alabama. Welcome everybody. And there's Dr. McMichael's here and Chiquita Gurley. Thank you all. All right, about connect. So we move on. Just keep this up in the new tab. Add questions as we go. I see some questions coming in. Are there anything new with observations? I'm new to NCEES for 2021. How to assign speech and language in NCEES. We can talk about that. How are NCEES changes impacted? And there may be more coming in on that one by COVID and virtual observations. Yes, we do have a slide on that today. So we will get to. So let's get back over to our slides, and I'll pop back out here and see if we have some additional questions. But we'll get to the slides so we can get through some of these today. All right, I'll close my little chat bar so it's off the screen.
I'll monitor the Padlet.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right, so let's get started with your staff. So I want you to have an understanding, especially those of you who are brand new, how staff get into the NCEES system. We do have source files that bring those in. This first item I'm giving you, I just send this to my brand new charters that have never been in NCEES and have just opted into home base. This is a welcome letter that goes out so let you guys know if you want to read through that letter. It's kind of a checklist of what you need. It explains all about NCEES and then the documents that you're going to need from to help you set up NCEES. So do take a look at that welcome letter if you're the one that's going to be managing and setting up NCEES. All districts, all PSUs can use the online evaluation tool. The online evaluation is required for our public schools to do online for the certified staff. Charters, you have an option, so talk that through with your Office of Charter Schools on what route you want to go there, but you're welcome to use the online tool as well. And then once you opt into home base, the other component of NCEES is the PD office. A lot of districts have been using that, especially since we went to remote learning and teachers were having to learn how to teach remotely. They were setting up a way for them to earn credits and earn that CEUs, and then to get it on their NCEES transcript, you could use your PD office and put your course or your learning event into the PD office and record those credits for your teacher. So that's available if you've opted in the home base. All right, so let's move on and talk about your staff. This is a message from our staff UID system. A lot of your HRs and payrolls are going to call it CEDARS because that's CEDARS in the URL when you navigate to staff UID. So if you're asking them about staff UID and they say, do you mean CEDARS? Then you can say, yes, I probably do. So staff UID, there should be a timely and accurate exchange of data between the payroll system in your PSU and the staff UID system. This includes any new staff members who need access to the K-12 related systems like PowerSchool, SchoolNet, NCEES. Additionally, the staff that have been hired but who are not yet receiving a paycheck can be added to the payroll system. We found last year that we had several payroll systems. We thought you had to wait until the first paycheck went out before you could activate staff in UID, but that's not true. They can go ahead and be activated even before school starts. It's up to your payroll work. They want start date to be that very first date of school. Other districts work with their payroll to get beginning teachers in to start that PD that's in NCEES prior to school start date. You work with your payroll. We don't tell them what to do. On how soon your staff can be activated so that they show up in NCEES. And there's a line down there for the non-payroll staff members who work with the PSU but are not in the payroll system, how to get those staff into the system, into staff UID. And the reason they need to be in staff UID is you have to access our systems through our single sign-on system in the cloud. So they'll be signing in there to then get to NCEES or Power School or wherever they need to go. So we have a nightly file. It's called our TNL. The system used to be called True North Logic. It's called the TNL Person Import file, and it runs every night. To let you know, it didn't run last night, so we hope it gets scheduled back tonight. But this grants access to your staff members to the system, and so you need to update staff ID and your HR systems. So we're going to look at the next couple slides to get more information about that. I wanted you to see what it looks like in staff UID leaders, what we look out there for when we're troubleshooting issues of why people don't get in. So on the left, you see Watauga County Schools, and looking down the list, here's somebody that works at 000 Watauga County Schools. That's a district school. No, we're not still in palette. Can y'all see my correct screen where I need to source data systems? But you can still access the Padlet. I saw that question come in. So look back to 000 Watauga County Schools. This person has a code of 113. It's in the annual salary field. That's not a dollar figure. Those are actually codes that come from your chart of accounts. So the first 3 digits are the object code from the chart of accounts that you paid out by, and the last 4 digits come from the purpose code from chart of accounts. So 113 tells me this is a person in a director or supervisor role. And NCEES looks for the code. So NCEES has certain codes that allow you to get into NCEES. It also looks for your location, and it looks, are you active, yes or no? All right, so this person, another thing I wanted to point out for you, just for your knowledge, NCEES is built to bring in the EDI locations. So your schools that are listed in the EDI site, they come in. Well, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, some payroll, folks under payroll had to start getting paid out of finance locations. And on the bottom left, you'll see an 810 central office. That is a finance location. It's okay for your staff to be in there. We've had to mask that location to look like 000 so that then the person can get into NCEES if they only have the 810 location. And there's others that are finance locations. 840 comes to mind, but there may be some others out there. If you have any issues, just open a ticket and we'll troubleshoot it for you. Now, the thing on the right I wanted to show you, because there is this last update date. And so you're going to have staff that may be active in more than one school in your district, or if they're active in more than one district, which one is primary? They should really not be active in more than one district unless you do have teachers that are in your district that also teach for virtual public schools. So that's okay. Your school should be telling us that you're primary, but if they both come in on similar dates, the system may not know who's the primary school. So then we have to come in here and update the primary school and have the most recent last update date. And then the system will know, oh, Wayne Early Middle College is where this person works primarily. And that's important in NCEES for reporting purposes. The way to tell which school is showing primary in NCEES is if you look at the very bottom right corner of your screen, is the school that is primary will be in bold letters. All right, do we have any questions about that? I've included links how to get the staff ID. You can go out there and register for access. Somebody in your district has to approve you. They may not approve you. They have rules in each district on who gets in to see this. And then there's a list of the chart of accounts if you're interested in the coding of the salaries. I'll back up 2 slides. I think I skipped over a link. Down here at the bottom is the data V7. I'm going to click on that real quick. This gives you a list of all the codes and the source files for NCEES. I'm just going to scroll down to the codes real quick. So here's who gets into NCEES, and this is what gets them in. Some people get in with just the 3 object code digits, and some people need a combined object and purpose code to get in to have their role in NCEES. So we won't go through all of those. I just wanted you to know where it is and who gets in. And notice we only have one code, 153, that lets a classified staff member come in. And these are usually people that many districts select as their NCEES district administrator. So a lot of times that's why they're in the system. All right, so the HR data. You also need to know who's doing your payroll. Are you doing, or who's doing your HR data? Is it HRMS? Is it Link? If it's one of those two, they are already uploading this data for you. If you have another system, please let us know. We will get you this document or take it now. Many charters do their own payroll. You're going to need to also upload your own HR data elements, and this is very important to upload for the demographics to come out okay in NCEES. If you want more information on that, just open a ticket and we'll get back with you on that. There are certain fields in here that you need to fill in. You're going to need username and password. I have those. So you just need to open a DPI ticket with ServiceNow and request that username and password if your district needs to upload your own HR data. Again, Link and HRMS currently already upload this. They know to do this. And here's your source file timeline. So we pull data from UID, from HR. We also get data from licensure. We start pulling around 4 p.m. now, and then between 9:45 and 11, the remaining HR and licensure data comes in. And then we create that T&L person import file about 11 o'clock at night. It processes for about an hour and gets put on a server for the vendor to pick up. The vendor then processes that file and imports it into NCEES about 4 a.m. and then I get an email summary of how well that import went. And over on the right, you can see the fields that come in from each area. So it starts with payroll. Payroll does an export. They upload it to staff UID, and then it goes to the ODS along with from PowerSchool, we get email addresses. If email addresses are not found in PowerSchool, it looks for HR, that HR data to pull that email address. That also brings in your primary locations and teacher classification codes, or they begin a teacher, things like that. And then that licensure expiration date comes in. That is needed to help calculate that licensure certification year. All that's put together and becomes that NCEES person import file. All right, any questions before we go on about staff roles? All right, again, here's that NCEES. Did I hear a question? Here's that NCEES Data V7 document. Again, just go through that list. This is who gets in here. We do have a new code in here, and we have a slide for that as well, and that's the reemployed retired teacher, code 128. This is still in process in testing with the vendor, and we hope to have this in within the next week or two. So watch for communications for those reemployed retired teachers in code 128. These are teachers that are exempt from the pay restrictions, something like that. You'd have to go read about it before you just apply that 128 code to somebody. All right, I'm getting NCEES. All right, and because we're on a new system, I might figure out how to go for the live system. So if we need to jump live, just let me know. If the screens are good enough, we're just going to roll through those, and then we'll go over to live if we need to. So here, when you
Tammy, we do have a question. Does a teacher that is also a department head code 121 for a teacher as well? They would, right? There's no different code for a department head.
Not that I know of. Maybe that would have to
Neither.
be answered. Yeah, that would have to be answered by whoever does the chart of accounts. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought.
Not that I know of. If they're a teacher, they get 121.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if there's a lot of teacher leadership specialists and other codes like that, so just go through that list and see what works. Okay. So navigating underneath, you would navigate to the My Staff screen to see your staff roster. So when TL imports your staff into your system, it's putting them on the My Staff tab. This is where you need to go. This is where principals need to go. Principals, a lot of times, once you're used to working in the system, you might would go to staff evaluations to find your staff and wonder why they're not there. Come check your roster. See if they're here. If they're here, then you need to troubleshoot how their plan type set. So this is where you go view your rosters. And I want to go live, so I'm going to attempt to change my screen. Hey, Kim, are you
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I thought it might be. That's okay. Let me see if I can share. Here we go. We're trying to go back and forth here. So thank you guys for being patient as we try this new system. All right, I think I'm here. All right, we're going to go to My Staff. All right, and this is what it looks like. I'm only going to show you some test information. We won't see as much as you would if you're looking at your own school. I don't want to show anything that I shouldn't on a person. So here's your My Staff screen. If you have more than one school, you can, of course, change it up here to the different schools. And that'll change what shows down below on your staff management. This is where your list will go. Let me see about this. Okay. All right, so this will go here. Only scroll down so far. All right, so you can have your principals and your teachers in here, your administrators are in here in this list. On the left-hand side, you'll see these first three, all staff, detail, and evaluations. I want you to keep in mind evaluations. We're going to go there later to show you how to see if your people have started their plan that's been assigned to them. So this is where you go view your roster, and this is also where you're going to go under administration staff management to assign access rights. All right. Let's try this again. All right, so on the page we're just on, you can also set your teach plan types, and that's on the right-hand side. Principal plan types are already set by the system. You don't need to set those unless you have a director that needs principal plan type. Directors are not connected to any plans in NCEES because most of those do not get evaluated in NCEES. However, I know some charters and other school types will use the director role kind of as a principal role, and they do need that principal evaluation. And other public schools have directors that need a principal evaluation. Those ones, you're going to have to open a ServiceNow ticket, and we will set those people into the principal evaluation bucket so that the principal plan will stick. While you're setting the plans for your teachers and your support staff, make sure you also choose the PDP type at the same time. Those two inform each other as to what rubric shows. Do they get a counselor rubric? Do they get a teacher rubric? Do they get a library media specialist rubric? Those kind of things. So make sure you get both of those at the same time. Principals never get a PDP plan. If you accidentally set it for a principal, they will never see it. The system knows not to show it to a principal.
Cammie, can I just
Yes.
jump in to add on a little bit to a comment you made about
Yes.
Sometimes directors there may be a need to change to have a principal evaluation. Is that, did you say that?
I have requests from districts, yes, that they
Okay.
want to evaluate their director on a principal evaluation.
For those of you who commented that you were new to the system, I just want to call your attention that there is an instructional central office staff evaluation.
Yes.
So directors, that is what we use for directors most of the time. It would be, usually it's a charter school where you have dual roles, where a director would lend themselves to have a principal evaluation. So I just wanted to clarify there for newbies that we have.
Right, and that's found outside of NCEES, correct?
Yes, it's located on the
NCEES Google site.
Google site, yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, and we have a link for that we'll give you so you can go find those other rubrics you might need, evaluations you might need. Thank you, Kim, that's your point. Okay. All right, also linked on here is how to assign plan types to your teachers and support staff. It's under the blue assign plan types, and you can also click on the graphic to get that help guide. A little word about the help guides. These are 2018 through 2020 help guides. We are updating to brand new 2020-21 guides, but these guides are still viable. Nothing has changed in steps. There might be a couple of graphics that need updated, but we're working on those right now. Please go ahead and use these. Were just updated in 18, 19, 19, 20, so these are still usable. All right, let me jump over and show you how to see if a staff has started their plans. We do have a slide later that we'll skip over to show you that. Well, if I can get to it. All right, that guys. Share. Under here, on evaluation, I'm hoping we have somebody in here that has a plan. Yes. All right, so under here, if you have access to staff, under the evaluations link, you'll see a drop down right here. And it's going to show you what plan types are assigned. And it's going to have the word edit, or it's going to have the word start. If it has the word edit, the plan is already started. This one shows. Here's one to show you. I hope you can see that all right. Zoom in a little bit. If it has the word start, the teacher has not started that plan. And in this case, it's a PDP plan. She's not started it. You can send her an email and say, hey, you need to start your plan. Now, you also have the ability to click here if you have access. It does kind of start their plan for them. They still have to do their first steps. But you know that it says start, they need to start their plan. It says edit, they've done good, they've already started their plan. Every district needs a district administrator. District administrators have the right to reopen those activities in your plans that have been locked or completed, and somebody needs to get back in them. They have to automatically system assigned rights. You can assign others those rights. We'll take a look at that in a minute. They also have the rights to create ad hoc reports and publish those out to admins to run. They can assign, I have to assign the very first DA for your district, and then they can assign others DAs. So hopefully if they leave, we got to assign another DA before they leave. And they can also change other people to have admin rights. They can assign staff and principal plan access rights, and they can also troubleshoot. They have an assume identity little key that lets them get in and see what others are seeing. Then you have your site administrators. On that chart, we shared the principal coded at 114. Those principals automatically become evaluators to everybody in their location, to their assistant principals, to their teachers, to their support staff. They get to be evaluators of everybody in their location because they have code 114. They can also assign plan access rights to staff. They can run reports that the DA has published or that DPI has published, and they can run quick reports. We'll look at that. They can also send targeted emails or messages in the system to staff. In the district administrator guide, we'll list all the rights for each of these roles, so please do look through that very well. And then I always get this question, can my assistant principals be site administrators? Everybody but the code 114 comes into NCEES, and we call them users. Users can only see their information only. So if they need to see others, somebody needs to assign them access rights to an evaluation, to a PD office. They need to get access rights. If they need to run reports, can you give them that access? Or they have to be a site administrator to be able to run those reports. This does not give them access to become evaluators for everybody in the system. It does not assign them that right because they don't have code 114. But they now have, if you switch them over to from a user to site administrator, this is for you district administrators to do. These are your steps. You're going to go to system administration, user accounts, click the name of the AP, click the edit button, change them from a user to a site administrator on their admin type, click save, and set this very important. Their admin rights button comes up. It is really an admin rights location button, so you must set a location and it must match what's coming in on that person import file. So you can add the locations that never stick. It's only going to stick what is coming in on that person import file. Click add and click done. So now they can assist with running reports. It does need to process overnight, and they can assist in my staff assigning access rights. Here's the graphics for those steps that I just told you about and what it looks like for a district administrator. Principals, you cannot get to this page. This is district administrator. All right, do we have any questions? Let's continue assigning those access rights. Here's your guide for assigning access rights to a teacher or support staff plan. And then on the right, I've showed you the window we're going to go look at in just a second, where you're going to choose the plans. The plans do not show up here in this window until you've set them on My Staff. And we're going to look at that in just a second. So this is under My Staff, Administration Staff Management. So let's go look. Right button. I've got to figure out how to change screen I'm doing there. So I know what I'm going to practice after this. There we go. All right, so we are in My Staff. And we're on Administration Staff Management. All right, and so we want to set the admin rights. These little boxes for who can manage rights tells me who is the site administrator. I'm not quite sure what the little checks are for. I need to learn more about that because I've tried to uncheck those before, but they just keep coming back. As long as they're a site administrator, they're going to be designated as a site administrator. So we're going to go look at their administrator rights. You can also get to people's profiles here to, if you're a district administrator, and manage their site settings. So we're going to look at admin rights. little bit bigger for you. At the top of this window tells who I'm editing rights for. So this may be my need to evaluate somebody. So I need to come down here, change your school if you have more than one school. Charters, you're just going to have your one school here. In step 2, you're going to pick the plan that they need to have access to. And again, none of these are going to show up unless somebody has been assigned those plans as a process overnight. So I'm just going to do comprehensive plan. In step 3, this is where you need to make a decision. Does this person need access rights to everybody on the comprehensive plan at all times, even new people who join in September, October, November? If that's true, you're going to leave number 3 blank. If it's not true, you're going to check the boxes. Now, if they need access to everybody on this list, you could select all, but they're probably only going to need access to certain people that have a comprehensive plan. And then you choose the rights. Are they going to be the evaluator, observer? Are they going to be a peer observer on evaluations? Maybe this is a superintendent and you want to give them view-only rights. There's your view-only. And maybe you need somebody to assist the DA with reopening locked activities. So these are your choices here. I change plans and I go to the professional development plan. My choices change. Hope y'all can see that. My professional development plan is where I assign evaluators, mentors. I can also do reopen admin there and view only. Now, something strange happens when I go and pick my principal plan. I have no way to add rights on principal plans. Now, remember, your principal is already the evaluator of your assistant principal. But who assigns the evaluators of the head principal? I can't do it here. So it's done in another area. So do we have any questions before I get off of this window? Once I add, let me add one of these so you can see. Let's do comprehensive plan. I'm going to add one. And so I wanted you to see what happens at the top of the page. It added those people I added. And new this year is this location field. So this tells me that these are in my school. It verifies it. Sometimes we have troubleshooting issues that we need to see, is this person in my location? So this shows down below in the member screen, and it shows at the top. Now, if your evaluator was listed here, if I had chosen an evaluator, you would see that they have access to all staff, and you won't see location there. All right, don't hear any questions coming in. All right.
We had a question that when you mentioned 10 days, asking, is that calendar or weekly? An example, teachers start on a Friday. Do we count weekends or just work days? We just count work days, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding. 10 working days, yes. All right, so to set those evaluators of the principals, this is the district, and NCEES district administrator needs to do this. Principal cannot do this. They need to go to staff evaluations. And I need a principal plan. If you've never been here, there's some handy filters over here. I want to find a principal plan. Okay, get my principals. And I need to add evaluator of principal. I'll click on their name. There's a tab over here on the right. It's called Access Rights. And here is where I can, somebody mute, please. Thank you. There's a new user button. I would click that. And you would just enter their first name, enter their last name, click search. I don't know if I can add myself again. Can I add you?
Sure.
All right. All right, and then that is Kim as the evaluator of this principal. You saw the line pop up right here. Tell me who added Kim on what date, and it also gives me a remove button. So now Kim is the evaluator of the principal. Notice you can also add contributors. Can't remember what all district administrators can see, but you should also be able to add that reopen and view only here as well. All right, so I'm going to remove you out there. If you want to remove somebody, it's removed from the group. We did learn from our school in the last month, be careful removing rights because it takes people's names out of the evaluator name fields on a plan. It doesn't remove any signatures that are in place, but it does take their names out. Okay. All right, any questions about how to add access rights for a principal plan? There's a help guide as well linked on the slide. All right, beginning of year orientation. And Kim, did you want to talk about this slide?
Sure, I will.
Thank you.
We can't see it yet, so I'm waiting on it to pop up.
Let me try that again. Oh. All right, can you see it now?
It says beginning of the year orientation. There we go.
Okay.
So we just wanted to include this slide as a reminder that the annual evaluation process for teachers does remain the same. And we put here a link to the teacher, to this one pager, which is a link to the teacher, to evaluation process. Sorry. But this year, when school begins, regardless of the instructional delivery model, I know a lot of you are trying to decide between which plan that you'll be implementing this year, schools will not be in an enrichment and engagement only model as things were from March till June of 2020. That was a reactive, a responsive solution to COVID at the time. So that was then, and now moving forward, we will come back to what we consider as the norm. Teachers will begin moving forward with standards and curriculum for all students, and for this reason, we do not anticipate that any NCEES requirements will be altered or suspended. So we just wanted to provide this one-pager just as a reminder to the steps that are within the process and each component within the steps, which then leads into the next slides that Tammy has prepared for you guys.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
Sure.
All right, so this is, there'll be more information coming out later from our educator support department. But just for you to know, the orientation does happen within the first 10 days, and that's step 1, component 2 of that process. Follow that process as usual. Set up your calendars like you usually do. Professional development plans can be reviewed virtually or face-to-face. Do review that PDP during the pre-observation conference. Step 2, component 4 of the process. And remember that those PDPs are critical now because you need to include intentional learning to facilitate remote instruction. This is to help your teachers start the year out with the most aligned support. And then observations. Continue to follow the process as it lends itself to virtual or face-to-face. Step 3 of the component 5 of the annual evaluation process. They will be expected regardless of the instructional model in place. Does anybody have any questions before we move on for that? I know that was one of the questions you had on the Padlet. I hope we've answered that. If you have any questions, let us know. All right.
I think we do have someone that may have a question.
Okay.
The question reads, this is also if we are virtual, and yes, it is. We have found that if you look over the rubric, that it does extend itself to virtual instruction.
Kim, are you able to hear me?
Yes, Robert, please jump in.
So this is Robert, and these are excellent questions. As Cammie mentioned, we do have, the leadership at DPI is in the process of alerting the State Board of Education for how we're going to guide districts in how to navigate partial or fully remote instruction. Some of the questions that we are getting are related to assumptions about how we ended the school year. In March, school effectively stopped, and after March, when we closed the school buildings, schools moved into, Kim described it a minute ago, they moved into an enrichment and engagement model. We were literally in an emergency experiment from March to May. School effectively stopped in March, and just as if you got to the end of a school year in June and you did not finish a teacher's evaluation, you would have to stop. You wouldn't have finished it. You didn't get everything done. So in March, school stopped. So the DPI told districts, anybody that has done everything required for a summary rating form, go ahead and wrap it up. Anybody who did not, don't finish those, abandon those, leave those alone. The reason that we stopped observing was because the school year stopped. And those experimental enrichment models, which were there for the purposes of schools and districts to rally to ensure that equipment was in the hands of kids, that students were able to access instruction, that teachers had what they needed, that was not an appropriate environment for collecting valid data on a teacher's instructional and professional practices. So that's why it stopped. Because it stopped, it has led a lot of people to believe that we stopped because it's impossible to observe virtual instruction. And that's actually not the case at all. Any instruction in which the teacher inputs, the student interaction and engagement, and the instructional outcomes are visible to the observer, if those three things are true, the characteristics and the descriptors in the rubric are accessible. And so we are working on fine-tuning the language of how we will communicate this to districts. The first receiver of that information will be HR directors, and from there, those district HR folks will have to distribute that to principals and make teachers aware. But that's why we're giving you the instruction that's on the screen right now. Do the orientation, do the PDP, prepare your teachers that there will be observation of and collection of data from their instructional activities, whether those are remote, face-to-face, or some blended. We have a statutory obligation in the state of North Carolina to conduct evaluations of educators, and our evaluation system is required by those state statutes and then further articulated in policy. We can't simply suspend it. It was interrupted last year in March, but now that school is moving towards a model of instruction where students will move through the curriculum as expected for the school year, we will have to follow those evaluation expectations and requirements. Again, there will be additional support and resources. They are coming out of a guidance committee at DPI, and once they go to the board, they'll be distributed to HR directors. So hopefully that's helpful.
Robert, could you repeat the three things that determine the observation component?
Sure. So if you look at our rubric, so North Carolina's rubric measures two kinds of practice: professional practice and instructional practice. And professional practice are standards 1 and 5 and element 2E. And instructional practice are standards 2, 3, and 4 and one row of element 1A. Those instructional practices make up 45% of the rubric. In order to assess instructional practices as they are articulated by the descriptors in the rubric, the observer has to be able to see the teacher input, the student's interaction and engagement with that instruction, and the instructional outcomes. If those three things are visible to the observer, They have the information needed to assess whether or not to check that those 108 descriptors that are a part of the rubric within the instructional practices, those rows that we refer to as the observable or the observation rows. So hopefully that helps.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. All right, we got about 8 minutes maybe. Here is your link to your orientation resources. I got that real quick. This is our NCEES Google site, but it is going into the orientation, which is linked over here on the left, beginning of year orientation. This is a place to go. It will be great for you guys, the principals and the teachers, to watch this webinar together, to this recorded webinar about teacher orientation. And there are your additional resources down below. Kim put this together last year and it was very well received. So please do go look at that as you're planning orientation and getting ready to do that. Some of you probably starting next week or the week after, so with your teachers.
We really hope this takes a burden off of principals.
Yeah.
So please use it, please utilize it, and reach out for additional resources if you can think of any.
All right. We talked about verifying how your staff plans are started. We did look at the evaluations link in My Staff. Since we're short on time and we have a lot of what's new to go through, you can also look under staff evaluations and principals. If you don't see your teacher name there, A, they've not started their plan, or B, they're not on your roster. And either way, you need to go navigate over to My Staff to view that roster and see if they're there and see if they have a plan set. And then check that evaluations link and see if they've started their plan, if it's been set and processed overnight. Once they're set and started, you're going to see staff twice on that staff evaluations page if they have a PDP and an evaluation. And then there's your icon showing you if a plan is not started, activity in a plan is not started, if it's in progress, incomplete, or complete. All right, so we do have reporting link in NCEES where you can go run quick reports. Many of those, there's some summary reports that you'll run at the end of the year. There's a lot of other reports in there that you're going to need to run. Two which should be running now are individuals belonging to more than one site in a district, individuals who belong to sites in more than one district. The first one is within your own district. School A and School B, is that teacher teaching at both, or should they only be showing at School B? Get with your payroll to verify what should it be. The other one in Johnston County and in Wake County, showing in NCEES, who do I really belong to and who needs to inactivate me? And that's very important, because if you leave both active, then if that person should be in Wake County and Johnston County still has them active, Johnston County's name, the school name, is going to show up on Wake County's plan for that staff. And that's going to cause issues down the road. So please work as hard as you can to notify those other districts, and districts will clean up your inactive staff to be inactive in your district so that we don't have an issue in NCEES with staff plans. Also, that page that we don't have time to go look at are those ad hoc reports and how to get to those. We will cover that in the upcoming webinar as well for the basic users. So if you want to know more about that, please join that webinar. All right, we'll go through what's new, and then if we have time to go back and look at anything, we will, and answer any additional questions. So we're going to zip to this, and we can wrap up for those of you that need to leave, which is 5 o'clock now. So I'm going to go as quick as I can. There's that location on the Administration Staff Management window. New in your rubrics are the ratings have been updated to show descriptors for the observation. So where it says developing, that's your rating at the end of the year. But during observation, there's knowledge. And they're in proficient. The observation, you're actually doing an action. So knowledge, what do they know? Action, what do they show? Interaction in observation. What are they doing in their classroom? How is it informing the culture in their classroom? and then extension, what's going on outside of the classroom and how's it informing program planning, things like that. So this is to help principals and teachers understand that during an observation, you are not being rated. You're actually given an opportunity for that teacher or staff to grow with knowledge, action, interaction, and extension.
Cami, can I add something real quick here? It relates
Yes.
to, okay, so in the question about using the rubric, if you remember a moment ago, I said that in order to see instructional practices, you needed to have access to teacher input, student interaction, and engagement and instructional outcomes. One of the specific reasons that those three things are essential is related to the middle two columns. You cannot assess or mark whether you've seen action and or interaction unless you have visible to you teacher input, that student interaction and engagement, and those instructional outcomes. So that's an additional reason that we added those words up there. These literally describe what it is that the descriptors are collecting information on. The descriptors in the first column are collecting information on knowledge. The second column, action. The third, interaction. And the fourth, extension. But you cannot assess action and interaction if you don't have access to teacher input, student interaction and engagement, and instructional outcomes.
Thank you, Robert. All right, new on that staff evaluations page. Now the district administrator or the principals that are viewing that page can see what status the principal plan is in. Before, the principal plan only showed training and orientation. I had a green check when it was completed. It didn't have anything for the reviews. Now you can see those here, and I've got a sample on the page. New for the evaluators of principals. In the end of year activity, it was hard to go back and see those previous mid-year and initial meeting comments and initial and mid-year goals. So now all of that does show in that end of year activity. You cannot edit the comments from mid-year and initial and the end of year. So that's just to show you that. But it does make it easier for you to view when you're doing that end of year review what went on in mid-year and initial review time. Another what's new, this came about because of COVID. Now those record of activities, anybody can print that, teachers, principals, district administrators. It is one of the activities in all plans, PDPs or evaluations. There's now an attachment field. So we needed this to attach those alternative evaluations that everybody did when everybody went home for COVID. Now it's here. So now we do have an attachment field here. Quick reports have been updated. Now they're in a list. The asterisks for most drum reports, there are additional reports down below. And there's a new filter feature, so now it no longer shows years. You're going to click next and choose what year you want to run for, and then click done to run the report. This is that new code 128 we've already talked about. Locking activities on the PDP. A lot of times principals mistakenly would lock the review activity in the PDP when the mentor hadn't signed. And who needs the mentor to sign? Your beginning teachers need their mentor signature on this PDP. So that mentor signature isn't required because everybody that has a PDP does not need a mentor signature. It's just your beginning teachers. So we require that set for everybody. So now we have some wording down at the bottom in the locking activity. Attention! Before locking, verify beginning teachers' PDP. Our mentor signature is complete if applicable. So please, we hope this cuts down on district administrators having to be up to this activity so that the mentor can sign. All right, questions and resources. Please do, and I'll put this in the chat. Please do fill out our feedback today. I know we were a little rushed, and partly because it's new, and partly maybe it should have been a little bit longer. You can reply in this feedback what your thoughts are on that. Let me put that in the chat for you. But please do complete our feedback survey today. And we will stay on the line and continue to answer questions after we stop recording. So I will. I know other folks need to go. So just look at resources. Here's at NCEES site, so be sure to bookmark bit.ly/NCEES-support. Out here is your webinars, all kinds. Here's your list of manuals, and then if you scroll down the page, Kim has all kinds of resources out there, no matter which link you're clicking on. Teachers, support staff, central office, superintendent. I am working on a new help guidance page. It's going to be about organizing, and I hope that will be live next week. So watch for that. And then the next few slides are all the webinars that are coming up. So thank you for attending today. This is the same kind of list you're going to see on our NCEES site. We will have another column on the NCEES site with the recording posted hopefully within a day or two. And the link to the slides will be listed out there as well. So coming up next week is the beginning of year for principals. This is addressing the principal plans, a little bit about how principals do teacher plans, and then more about how evaluators of principals do principal plans. News for Basics comes up August 18th, and beginning of the year for teacher plans is going to be August 25th. And I'll let you read through the next couple slides. I know we're around. All the way through December, we've got those scheduled. Here's a list of who's supporting you in NCEES. We have Rob Dietrich, our home-based manager at DPI Digital Teaching and Learning Division. I am your education product consultant. You've heard from Robert Fox and Kim Simmons. They are awesome for the policy side of NCEES. Robert is our NCEES product owner, and Kim is our NCEES coordinator. And then you have representatives from your local PSUs that come to our home-based advisory board meetings, and you'll hear more about that in our newsletter. Do go out there and check your contacts on the left on our DPI site to make sure your contacts are up to date if you're the person that kind of keeps up with that. Again, thank you for attending today. Kim, do we have any questions I need to answer before I stop recording?
No, I don't see any.
Okay, great. So thank you for attending today. Thank you for working with us as we went through our first Webex meeting. And please do fill out that webinar feedback. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Robert, for joining in. You're awesome as always with good advice. And you guys have a great afternoon.